Hello students, Mr. Armstrong here again, and today's topic is prepositions and prepositional phrases. Prepositional phrases are one of my favorite components of grammar. They add so much information and detail to sentences, making sentences much more informative and fun. There are many prepositions, and lists of them can be found all over the internet. I will, of course, also be providing my students with a list in the files section of their Teams class. But prepositions are mostly important because they are at the beginning of every prepositional phrase. A prepositional phrase must, 1, start with a preposition. A preposition is always going to be the first word of a prepositional phrase. And so if you want to memorize the list of prepositions, it'll be much easier to find them. But I hope to teach you what they look like, what they do, what they accomplish also. Number 2, a prepositional phrase must end with a noun or a pronoun. So they all start with prepositions and they end with a noun or a pronoun, also known as the object of a preposition. Now there can be lots of words in between, usually adjectives modifying that noun or pronoun. But every prepositional phrase must start with a preposition and end with the object of that preposition. In other words, the thing that the preposition is pointing to. A prepositional phrase can add information in 4 different ways to a sentence. Number 1, a prepositional phrase can tell us the location of something, where something is, usually in relation to something else. Number 2, a prepositional phrase can tell us the direction that something is moving. Both of these first 2 have to do with the question of where. The third thing that a prepositional phrase can give us information about is time, or in other words, when something is happening. And finally, number 4. Most simply put, another thing that a prepositional phrase can do is simply introduce an object. I think once I give some examples on all 4 of these, it'll start to make even more sense. So let's take a look at some. We'll start with some location prepositional phrase examples. Remember, these can often answer the question of where something is. Against the fence. It tells us the location of something. This is just a prepositional phrase. We don't have the rest of the sentence to be able to decide what that is. But something is against the fence. Against is a preposition, and fence is a noun. The thing that against is pointing to, in other words. Against what? Against the fence. Near the door. Where is that thing we're looking for? It's near the door. A location. Near is a preposition. Door is the noun or pronoun, also known as the object of that preposition. The thing that preposition points to. And finally, beside them. Beside is a preposition, and them is a pronoun in this case, substituting for a noun, or nouns in this case, but it is a prepositional phrase. These are not complete sentences, they're just phrases that you might find within a sentence. Now let's take a look at some prepositional phrases that deal with the direction that something is going, or direction prepositional phrases. Through the house. It gives us an indication of where something is going. There is movement implied, although there are no verbs in this prepositional phrase. But it starts with a preposition, it ends with a noun, and it tells us where something is moving. Into the fresh pie. Into is a preposition, and pie is the noun that it points to. I added an extra descriptive adjective in this one too, just to show you that sometimes there could be all kinds of words in between the preposition and the object of that preposition. It could just as easily be into the fresh blackberry, blueberry, hot pie. But pie is still the noun. Pie would still be the object of that preposition, answering the question, into what? Into pie. And who's getting into that pie anyway? And finally, for direction, across the universe. Across is a preposition. Universe is a noun. It tells us, once again, the direction in which something is moving. And next up, third, we have time prepositional phrases, or prepositional phrases that give us information about when something is happening. During lunch break, When is something happening? It's happening during lunch break. During is a preposition, and break is the object of that preposition. Break is the noun. In this instance, we also have another noun, lunch. Behaving is an adjective, telling us what type of break it is. But that's a subject for another video. On Thursday. This, once again, tells us when something is going to happen. It's just a two-word prepositional phrase. On is a preposition, and Thursday is a noun, the object of the preposition. And the last example for time, in the cold winter. I threw another adjective in there, a descriptive adjective. But still, in is the preposition at the beginning of the phrase, and winter is the noun, the object of the preposition at the end of the prepositional phrase. And finally, we have introduces an object prepositional phrases. Now, I put object in quotation marks because sometimes that's not technically a thing, right? It might be a person, but grammatically, an object usually just means some sort of noun. Some examples. With my basketball. It doesn't deal with time or direction or the location of something, but it introduces a new object, the basketball. With is a preposition. Basketball is the object of the preposition. Regarding your friend. Once again, we're just introducing this noun, friend. We wouldn't really consider our friends objects, of course, but grammatically, it fits that bill, right? It is the object of the preposition, after all. An introduction to this new noun. An introduction to the fact that you have a friend. And it's nice to have friends. And finally, about the terrible weather. Once again, I threw in an extra adjective just to show you that sometimes there can be other words in a prepositional phrase. But yet again, it starts with the preposition, about, and it ends with the noun, weather. About what? About weather. It just happens to be terrible weather. So as a quick review of everything we've talked about, every prepositional phrase must start with a preposition and end with a noun or a pronoun, otherwise known as the object of that preposition. And a prepositional phrase can contribute 4 different pieces of information to a sentence. It can serve 4 different purposes. It can provide the location of something. It can provide a direction that something is moving. It can tell us when or the time that something is happening. And it can introduce some sort of object in a variety of different ways. Can you come up with some examples of prepositional phrases that I didn't use in this video? If so, you can comment below, or if you're in my class, you can add it to our discussion when we review this topic. Thanks so much for watching. Remember to find your own list of prepositions. There's plenty of them on the internet. And also, once again, if you're in my class, I'll be providing you with some common ones. Like and subscribe if that's the kind of thing you're into, and I look forward to teaching you again very soon.